Hi everyone, Mark here from Cleeve with this week's weekly news wrap up for the week ending the 24th of May. So it's Sunday as I record this, and we're all eagerly waiting and anticipating for racing to start a week on Monday, as it's scheduled to do so up to this point. And shortly after that, Irish racing should be started. Now, let's hope we don't have the stop-start like the French have had with having to move stuff away from Paris, but Gallup were very quick to respond and carry on racing just at different locations. In this week's edition, we've got a mix of news, some commentary, updates on classic contenders. Finally, a walk down memory lane with one of our very favourite national hunt champions. Without further ado, the first article we've posted here is the Final Furlong podcast, which you can listen to at your leisure. So that's grab a cup of tea time, get your feet up and listen to the boys from Final Furlong podcast. And this week they're looking at how racing is going to resume in the UK and Ireland, and some of the logistical problems of horses travelling to and from the UK across the pond to Ireland and back again, and how the schedule looks on both sides of the Irish Sea. And again, we keep stating this, which trainers are equipped to get off to a fast start for the season, which trainers are good at getting the horses ready after a long layoff, etc. So well worth a listen. The next article we've looked at is the order of running for the Royal Ascot meeting. Now, they have made some changes to the schedule for Royal Ascot, and of course it's going to be run behind closed doors. They have added extra races, and there are a couple of new handicaps, and the Queen has been asked, and she's granted her permission for a couple of races to be renamed, such as the Copperhouse Horse Handicap and the Golden Gates Handicap, and the Palace of Holyrood House Handicap. So have a read of the schedule for Royal Ascot. It's going to be run over 5 days, and as I say, there's going to be extra races within those 5 days, so it's going to be a very, very good, hopefully fully televised over the 5 days. I've not seen the TV schedules yet for that. In the next article, on the back of the order of running of Royal Ascot, Mike Cattermole makes a very good case in a well-reasoned and argued post about BHA and Royal Ascot being more flexible regarding the 2-year-old races. Now, there are 6 2-year-old races scheduled for Royal Ascot, and his argument is that they could push these races back or have a whole day's juvenile racing tagged on as the last day and just call the first 4 days Royal Ascot. Have a read of the article, whether you agree with him or not, but he seems to think that they're trying to compress the 2-year-old races up too much and they could push these out to later in the year. I tend to agree with him, really, but have a read and see what you think. But as usual, it's a well-written piece by Mike Cattermole, well-reasoned and well-argued. Next, we have the BHA's roadmap for June. The Racing Post have done a very good article on this, and they've laid out day by day. First of all, they've done a very good graphic on which you can expand and read there about the pattern races over the month with dates and what's happening when. But they've listed every single day of the month what racing will be on. And as you can see, June's going to be a busy month. Now, we're going to make an announcement next week about how we're going to handle the comeback of racing, what we're going to be offering members, and laying out why and what we're going to be doing. So keep your eye out for that. But this article here, as I say, lays out every single, from the 1st to the 30th of the month, every day's racing, the Guineas meeting, Royal Ascot, etc. Now, it all kicks off on Monday, the 1st of June, with the all-weather meeting at Newcastle. As you know, we don't generally cover the all-weather, so we probably won't be covering the Newcastle meeting, but we'll be laying out in an announcement early next week how we're going to handle all this, because it's looking a very busy schedule over the next month. So this is worth bookmarking, really, this page, and you've got a reference then of what's going on every day over the coming month. The next thing we looked at was prize money. Now, the BHA and the HRI have published their provisional prize money and what the financial impact is going to be. They've reduced the minimum prizes for all Group 1 races to 100,000. They're not really finalised because obviously they're talking to the sponsors, and a lot of these sponsors are maybe in businesses that have been badly affected by coronavirus. So prize money is obviously very important to owners and trainers, but probably more importantly, with the pattern especially, is the black type and the breeding rights going forward. Have a read about the the prize money for the classics, etc. The next thing we looked at was Pinatubo. Now, if you go and have a look at this article, Charlie Appleby is saying in here, yes, he's pleased with Pinatubo's growth over the winter. But when you watch, there's a very good review of Pinatubo's Dewar success from last season. Now, Pinatubo was a very small horse. And you look at the horse he beat in that race, Arizona, it was massive compared to Pinatubo. Now, has he grown on? He says, Charlie Appleby says, physically, though, I can see a change. Now, that's not a huge stamp of confidence in the size of a growth of a horse over from 2 to 3. And, granted, Pinatubo won 6 out of 6 last season and was rated 128 at the end of his juvenile campaign, making him the best juvenile since Celtic Swing achieved a figure of 130 in 1994, an achievement matched only by Arazzi in 1991. So, Pinatubo was an unbelievable 2-year-old. Now, on form, his 2-year-old form, how can you see him being beaten at 1,000 guineas? And the market, if we look at the 2,000 guineas market, the market is, saying that. I mean, there's only one firm, that's Sky Bet, going even money. Everybody else is odds on. And Arizona, who's already beat twice by 2 lengths and 7 lengths. Now, okay, you'd say, well, Arizona was getting nearer from 7 lengths to 2 lengths from the running at the Curragh to then the Dewhurst. But when you look at the ground at the Dewhurst, I don't think it really suited Pinatubo. The ground was a lot softer. And you could see he wasn't really relishing the ground, and he didn't have that, supreme turn of foot at the end of the race, but he still managed to reel back Arizona and beat him quite easily by 2 lengths. So you can't really see Arizona, coming back and beating him unless Pinatubo has not, progressed that much from a 2-year-old to a 3-year-old. But, it could be a wonder horse, but would you be willing to take odds on for a horse such as Pinatubo in the 2,000 guineas? Granted, as I say, what else can you see that could beat him? So, you might be looking for places in that race. So there's a very good article here about Pinatubo, and, have a read of that at your leisure. But could win by a country mile, could get beat, who knows? The next article I looked at was 5 for your notebooks, and this is from Mark Howard, and he's got 5 handicappers here to stick in your notebook and follow throughout the season. So, it's worth doing. He's obviously the producer of the book, Ahead on the Flat, so he knows his onions, this guy, and it's well worth sticking these in a tracker and following throughout the season. Finally, we posted up an article by Matthew Taylor. I look back at who was really an outstanding horse in Denman. When you look at his record and you look at the write-up from Matthew Taylor, he was just an absolute wonder horse. And unfortunately, his career was cut very short by a problem with his heart, and he never really came back after that. The same horse. And you look at, there's a very telling set of statistics here in this article here. So this is his first 4 seasons. Look at that. He ran 15 times and won 14 times and was second once. And then you look after he came back after his heart problem, that was his record there. And it just shows you that, you know, there's, I think his, was it his Uncle Jim here said that, I can't find the piece now, said that they never really come back the same after injury. But we, and probably yourselves, if you're old enough, will remember Denman, aka the Tank, and what a wonderful horse he was. And it's a really nice article going over his career, and you know, sit down, have a read, and go down memory lane. There's not many horses, you know, there's the Sprinter Sacras, the Cato Stars, the horses like that over the years that, you know, come to the public's attention and just are absolute wonder horses. So great piece by Matthew Taylor there to end off the weekly news wrap up. So we'll see you next week, and hopefully we'll have had nearly a week's racing under the belt, and we'll see how things are panning out. Oh, tell a lie. We won't see you next week after a week's racing. We'll see you next week on the eve of the start of racing. It's me getting all giddy and all excited before we've even started. So, and as I say, next week we will be making an announcement to everybody about how we're going to handle things for the first month or so. So we'll see you next week.